Hello students, and welcome to yet another session on MIL English. In today's session, we are going to cover two subunits. Under 2.2, we have a short story titled Salt by Mahashweta Devi, and under 2.3, we have to learn speaking skills. We will rather learn how to improve our speaking skills. Let us now talk about the life and works of Mahashweta Devi. Mahashweta Devi was born in Dhaka in 1926. From 1936 to 1938, she studied in Shantiniketan, after which she moved to Beliatala School in Kolkata, where her family lived from 1938 to 1944. In 1942, after her matriculation, she joined Ashutosh College, where she worked actively for famine relief as a member of the Girl Students Association. In 1944, they moved to Rangpur, and later in the same year she joined Shantiniketan as a BA student. In 1946, she graduated from Vishwabharati with an honours degree in English and enrolled for an MA in English at Kolkata University. Her studies, however, were interrupted by communal riots. In 1947, she married Bijan Bhattacharya, and in 1948 their son was born. For a couple of years, she taught at Padmapukar School and at Ramesh Mitra Balika Vidyalaya and published features and short stories in Sachitra Bharati under the pseudonym Sumitra Devi. In 1949, she joined the Post and Telegraph Department, but in 1950 was dismissed on suspicion of being a communist. In 1952, she accompanied her husband to Mumbai for a brief period. Her first work, Rani of Jhansi, was published in 1956, followed by Wali and Moti in 1957. In 1961, she divorced her husband and in 1963 received her MA English degree from Kolkata University. In 1964, she joined Bijaygarh Jyotish Gray College as a lecturer in English. In 1965, she married Ashit Gupta. In 1975, again they divorced. She continued to write and publish and received several awards, including the Amrita Puraskar in 1968, the Sharat Chandra Memorial Medal in 1978, and Sahitya Academy Award for Arunir Odhikar in 1979. From 1980 onwards, Mahashweta engaged herself actively in the tribal cause. She founded the Palauma Jila Bonded Labour Liberation Organization in 1980 and became editor of Brotika, a journal devoted to the lives of tribal in India. From 1982 to 1984, she worked as a reporter for the daily Jugantar. In 1984, she became president of the West Bengal Heria Shobar Kolyan Samiti. Today, Mahashweta continues to work tirelessly for the welfare of the tribals in India. She remains a prolific writer with novels, short stories, plays, essays, with journalistic writings to her credit. She has won numerous honors and awards, including the Bharatiya Gyanpith Award in 1995, the Raman Meghashoy Award in 1997, and also she got award in France in 2003, the Indira Gandhi Award for National Integration in 2005, and the Padma Shri in 1986 and again in 2006. In the field of Bengali letters, Mahashweta has always been a radical figure, castigating political authorities for exploiting the poor and marginalized and criticizing the literary establishment for failing to raise the voices against social injustice. According to Gayatri Chakraborty Spivak, Mahashweta champions the cause of the subalterns, the poorest of the poor who are excluded from the mainstream and denied their rights by an oppressive and exploitative society. Mahashweta perceives herself as a pan-Indian writer addressing a country-wide readership in order to raise the national conscience about the plight of the lowest segments of our society. Her works reveal an intimate knowledge of the history, politics, lifestyle, and mindset of the tribals. In her fiction, she combines different registers of language, including chaste Sanskritized Bengali, the colloquial idiom and localized flavors, tribal dialect, as well as snatches of Hindi and English. Her characters are drawn mostly from the poor, oppressed class, although she has also written about middle class life and historical personages. History, myth, folklore, and contemporary reality combine to create the ethos of her novels, plays, and short stories. Many of the stories are located in the tribal regions of Bengal, Bihar, and Madhya Pradesh. Let us now move on to the story. The story Salt is translated in English by Sharmishta Dattagupta and was published by Sahitya Akademi, New Delhi. Mahashweta Devi's story Salt 1981 is set in Junjar, a tribal village along the Palama Reserve Forest in the years following the emergency and the defeat of the Congress in subsequent election. It represents the plight of the tribals deprived of arable forest land by the Hindu traders who came there after the coal revolt. When the story begins, the entire village is shackled into forced labor without wages by the landowner Uttam Chand. The tribals live off the forest unaware of their right to share of the crops on the land they till until a new minister takes power after the elections in 1977. The organized youths with Purti Munda, who is the protagonist of the story, challenge Uttam Chand and decree that the tribals must receive half the share of the crops. By way of revenge, Uttam Chand decides to deprive the tribals of salt, a basic though cheap commodity. The people of Junjar come from their weekly market to Palani or Muru. All the grocery shops of these two markets belong to Uttam Chand. And he said, "Let them have a taste of saltless gruel. Such ingratitude after being fed by me for so long?" The narrative traces the long-term effect on the tribals of this vindictive strategy. The tribals resort to all kinds of strategies to cope with the problem. They go to the forest contractor, barter crops for salt, pray to Haram Deo, and exchange hens for salt. The youth committee asked the medical representative about the importance of salt for the human body, but the answer is bewilderingly technical. When confronted, Uttam Chand claims that the tribals are liars. Eventually, the youths forget the issue. Meanwhile, Purti discovers another source of salt, the salt lake for wild animals. He also witnesses the mischief wrought by Ikwa, the lone elephant. The headman warns the tribals not to annoy the elephants, who are known for their vengefulness. The salt lick is shifted, but Ikwa is suspicious and changes his habits. At first, the tribals are careful not to be seen when they steal salt from the lake. They get bolder and they are seen by Ikwa. Near the Palama fort, Ikwa attacks the culprits and tramples to death. This is the extract I am going to now tell from the story. The elephant is the largest terrestrial animal. But if an angry elephant decides to outwit man, it could tread more softly than an ant. Taking care of taking care not to crush dry leaves under his feet, being unbelievably cautious. So when Purti turned around, it seemed the old Palama fort was approaching them. An elephant looks much bigger than its size as it gets nearer though. The elephant silently used its trunk and feet, but the three men screamed madly. Now, an official probe yields puzzling results. Nobody believes that someone could die stealing salt unless trunk. The crime is labeled as irrational act and taken to prove the need of human intervention in preserving wildlife. Echo is declared as a rogue and killed. The headman is uneasy. Three men and an elephant would not have died if salt was available. He does not have the words to express this insight. He can only say that it is not fair. He returns to his own habitat, knowing that urbanites will never understand how salt would cause a life and death battle. What is the purpose of the story? Who is really to blame for the deaths of the three tribals and an elephant? What is Eko's role in the narrative? What is the significance of salt in the context of the story? Now let us examine the text in detail through the themes that is there in the story. Exploitation is a major theme of this story, highlighting the predicament of the innocent tribals who are taken advantage of not only by Uttam Chand but also by everyone in a position of power. One of Mahashwata's major concerns in her fiction as well as in her activist writings is the denial of land rights to the tribals. In her essay, The Slaves of Palamo, she describes the disastrous effects of development in the Palamo area. At one time, the district boasted of great jungles. Today, the jungles are largely destroyed and the district can be described as dry upland. She recounts the growth of the bonded labor system in the region after the downtrodden people's revolt against the British and the Jagirdars was crushed in 1857. After 1857, the Zamindars and the moneylenders uprooted them from their land. The entire village is shackled by Uttam Chand in forced labor without wages. For a generation, year after year, they walk 12 miles to Uttam Chand's village Tahar to repay the unwritten debts of their forefathers. For just a few morsels a day and a meager share of the harvest, they till his land without pay. Their share of the crop too is added to their debts. The story demonstrates the nexus between politics and the macro or national level and the power structures on the local level represented by the landowner, the trader and the youth committee. The authorities are portrayed as deliberately blind to what they do not wish to perceive. The law, it seems, exists in name only where the poor tribals are concerned. Then under pressure from tribals demanding the fair arrangement, Uttam Chand finds a legal but inhuman mode of retaliation. The narrative has a long didactic element, problematizing the issue of justice and making a strong appeal to the reader's social conscience. Purti's role in the tragedy highlights the impossibility of making black and white moral judgments in certain situations. The headman accused Purti of endangering the lives of the entire community through his carelessness in allowing the elephant to see him stealing salt. Yet, after the deaths of three men and an elephant, the headman feels that someone else was responsible. Where life is reduced to a bare struggle of survival, conventional morality ceases to apply. Purti violates the law, but the text suggests that the actual blame lies elsewhere. The story constructs a parallel between Ekwa and Purti, each a loner struggling for survival, each destroyed by rule and the system. The law of the jungle is juxtaposed against human law to suggest, ironically, that the latter is not necessarily more just. Next, we are going to cover speaking skills. Now, speaking English confidently is an important goal for many. Often we hesitate because we are afraid of making mistakes or embarrassing ourselves in front of others. Sometimes mistakes are unavoidable, but like any other skill, you can improve your spoken English if you practice regularly and follow the simple techniques that we are going to discuss now. Now let us know what are the simple steps by which we can improve our speaking skills. The first step is improve your speaking skills is actually working on your listening. Listening to English has several benefits. It allows you to pick up new words, phrases, and ways to respond in conversations. Secondly, listening provides opportunities to understand pronunciation. How some words are omitted when speaking, how some are joined together, the rhythm, the intonation, and sounds of the language. Now the question is, what should you listen to? There are many resources available to you to listen to for free. Start with short English clips, videos. Pick your favorite English TV shows or YouTube channel. Listen to a clip that notice carefully what the characters are saying. Repeat any dialogues or phrases that interest you. Replay the same clip until you understand every word. You could also turn on the subtitles or look at the transcript of the video if available and practicing saying the dialogues with the character. The next one is imitation. How that you have listened to lots of English conversation, it's time to some imitation. Yes, that's right. Imitating or copying someone is a wonderful to improve your speaking skills. Not convinced? Watch babies and children how they learn a language. They copy everything an adult says. Another benefit of imitation is that it will help you become more accurate in English without having to learn grammar rules. With lots of practice, you will begin to remember chunks of words and phrases. This helps in remembering word patterns in a sentence and how certain words go with others. Reading is yet another important skill to have when learning a language. Whether you prefer a novel or an article, reading a few minutes every day will help you to acquire new vocabulary. The most common reason why people hesitate with reading is that it takes quite a lot of time to read a book from start to finish. However, when learning English, reading even for a few minutes is greatly beneficial. Short articles or notes in English are great for this. They only take a few minutes to read and are quite easy to find. You can start with materials you find every day. Think of notes and memos at work, pamphlets and brochures at your local supermarket, or notices and safety instructions in the elevators. Whenever you are there is always something to read. Reflection is a very useful step in improving your speaking skills. Reflection is nothing but asking questions to think about what you learned, how you learned, what progress you see, what could be done differently, and how to change the way you learn to allow progress. It is important to reflect on your language learning abilities on a daily basis, especially if you're learning a new language independently. Reflection is another way to provide yourself some good feedback in the absence of a teacher. Say you had a great conversation in English. After your conversation is over, take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself questions such as the following. How was it? How much did you understand the other person? How confident did you feel in responding to the question asked or continuing the conversation? How comfortable did you feel about the topic of discussion? How quickly were you able to think of the right thing to say or the right words to say? Did you come across any unfamiliar words? What did the other person do when they couldn't think of the right word? Recording your reflections is in a notebook even after every learning session will help you see your progress over time. Prepare. A lot of us hesitate to speak or take part in conversations in English because we are nervous about what to say. We're anxious that what we say may not be appropriate or we may make mistakes. We can easily fix this problem by preparing ahead. Are you going to a restaurant with your colleagues? Or friends? Think of situations that require you to speak English. Order food perhaps. Ask for changes to a dish. Ask your friends' preferences. Ask for the bill. What vocabulary do you need in these situations? Write up a simple list of phrases to use. Create similar sheets for everyday situations. You will find yourself becoming more confident and ready to speak in English. If you need help, you will find many useful phrases of different situations in most of the websites. Speaking. Yes, speaking. There is no magic pill that would help you speak better. You must put yourself in situations where you are forced to speak English to get better at it. Start small. Do you live or work at a place where you need to speak English to get by? Then it's great. Take advantage of the situations by speaking to people around you. It could be at your workplace or even at a coffee shop. Doesn't matter where, as long as you can speak. If you don't have the advantage, practice speaking in English with your friends or classmates. It is easier if you choose someone who speaks a different language than you do, as it forces you to communicate in English. The last but not the least is practice. You cannot stress this enough. Regular and consistent practice is the key to success when it comes to speaking English. The tips and suggestions that we have described above only work if you use them regularly. So here's what we recommend. Start small. Spend just 10 minutes every day doing one or two of the above things. Maybe listen to a short video clip today and imitate. Reflect on what you learned. Tomorrow pick up a short article, read aloud and summarize it in your own words. Reflect on what you read and the new words. Some days you will find more time, dedicate more time when you can, but do the minimum every single day. You will see a big change in your abilities in no time. As you improve, you will get more confidence and more ready for bigger challenges. This is the time to find speaking partners and put yourself in situations that require speaking in English. And don't worry about making mistakes. Most people don't care if you make mistakes. And finally, don't forget to have fun. It is easier to learn something new and commit to learning when you're having fun. Right? Thank you for listening to this session. And don't forget to read the story in original, the short story that was discussed in this session. Thank you once again.